Okay, so it's 2:40 now. We will go back here. And then, so yeah, for the rest of the workshop, we're just gonna like build this from scratch, like the whole thing. But yeah, we'll do it together. So we will now go to workspace page here, because then now I have 2 frames that we can work with. And we'll start with this one, so the desktop. Yeah. So yeah, so what is the process for creating a site? First is like finding inspiration, because you need to know like what kind of site you're making. Maybe you want to get a feel for what kind of vibe of site. And then after that, we'll obviously create a new Figma file, and then we're gonna lay out content. And then once we have that content, we're gonna change up the fonts and the colors. Maybe add some elements to make it look nice, and then design system. So what that means is we're going to extract all of the common elements like colors and text sizes, so that we can create like a design system which we can use for like other pages so that everything's consistent. And then afterwards, we'll get ready for coding. So that is the agenda for the rest of the session here. Yeah, so first one is finding inspiration. So there's a site called Dribble. It's over here, a screenshot of it. And this is where we can find like inspiration. Just look up portfolio, and then there's like different designs you can look at. Pinterest is also good. Google, Behance, which is from Adobe, Mobbin, and Godly.website. Yeah, those are good places to find inspiration. So if you find something you like, you can like copy the image and then move it somewhere like a mood board. So while you're designing the site, you can like look back at that and be like, oh yeah, this is actually the vibe I want. And you can like tune your design to mimic that. So yeah, these sites are really good. Actually, I think Mobbin, you might need to add subscription, but they have like a free tier, I think. Yeah. So next, we're just gonna lay out the content. So this is like planning out like what kind of text do you want on the site? Like before we do any styling, before we think about colors and stuff, we want to just know like what should be on the site. And think about the goal of your site. So we mentioned earlier, the goal is a portfolio that has an about section, that has a project section and a contact section. So we'll make sure to lay those out first. So we'll actually go back here to workspace, the workspace page, and we're going to go to this frame. It's called edit this. So we'll zoom in there. So the first thing is the hero section, which is this. So those are just a bunch of text. So again, text tool is T. So, or you can click up here and just click anywhere here, and then just type maybe your name, or you can, if you want to follow like this, because this is what we're building tomorrow, but feel free to add your name because it's also like your site as well. So I'm just gonna put his name here. Also, font doesn't matter what your font is right now. Well, we can change that later. Also, it doesn't matter what your font size is. I'll just keep it at 64 pixels. So yeah, if you remember, yeah, T or this button for your text tool, and then click anywhere and then type your name, or if you're following Sebastian Lee over here. So yeah. Okay. And then the next thing is like that little description you have. So again, text tool T. So yeah, for the most part, we're just gonna use a text tool and add some content. So yeah, software developer. I like making websites. And I'm just gonna move this like this. Decrease the bounding box so that it's inside the frame here. So yeah, that's like your name. and then your little blurb. And then text tool again. We'll go down here and then put any links you may want on your website. Like I'm going to put GitHub link, then make a new text element, LinkedIn. Click out of that, T again. And then I think the other one was email. So now pressing B for this, let's move it around so our links are like next to each other. So you should have something like this right now. Just a bunch of text because we're just laying out the content, not really thinking about like text size or anything like that. If you need help, again, the chat is here or raise up your hand. But yeah, this is what we should have right now. Just like a bunch of text. Okay, so now we'll just move a bit down here. And then now we're onto the about section. So we do want to have like a little heading there. So again, text tool or T, and then about. And then click out of that. So you're done typing. And then a little blurb here. So text tool again, or press T. And then we'll just do, I'm from SFU. I like the SSSS and I make websites. Again, overflowing. So I'm going to decrease the bounding box here. This blue block box, just hover here, decrease so that it's inside and I can still see it. And then we'll have a section here for skill set. So again, text tool, T. So my skills. And then list out like the skills that you want. I'm just going to put HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And I'll just move it around so it looks like they're in a list over here. And then we need a picture of ourselves here. So maybe you don't have a picture right now. So we can just do like a rectangle. So for a rectangle, you can click up here or press R and then just drag. So this can be like our placeholder picture. I'll just pause here. You should have like something like this now. Your hero section, which is like a description of yourself, and then your links, about section, and then like a little description about yourself, the skills section, and then a list of skills, and then your placeholder image. Or if you have an image already, yeah, feel free to add that. You can actually just copy and paste into the file, or you can select your rectangle and then change the fill to image. Does anyone have any questions so far? So yeah, we've just used all we've only used the text tool and rectangle tool so far. And it's already like most of the content on the site. So yeah, so if there's no questions, I will move on. So now we need more space in our frame. So we click the frame. You can either click up here at the name, like the edit this name, or you can go to the side panel here and then just look for the frame, edit this. And now you can see the bounding box. And I'm just going to increase it. We're probably going to decrease this later, but for now, I'll just increase it so that we have more space. Okay. So the next section is project section. So again, we want a heading there, text tool, press T, and then projects. And then we need a placeholder there. So R for the rectangle tool. I'll just do a random rectangle here. So that's going to be a placeholder for our image. And then now we need information about this project. So it looks like here we need a title, a brief description, and then these two buttons here. So yeah, I'm sure you know what to do now. Text, project title, text again, description, and then the buttons here. I'll just add text for the buttons. So view project. And then I view site, I believe that was the other one. I'll pause here again. So you should have something like this. Again, we will style this later so it looks nicer and that everything is not the same text size. If you have any questions, again, feel free to leave a comment in the chat. But yes, this is what we should have so far. Hero section, about section, project section. Oh, actually, I forgot the nav bar. I'll do that later. But the next one is this little contact banner. So again, this is the same process. So let's text tool and then get in touch is, or whatever, maybe you want to do contact, I don't know. But for now, we will do get in touch as the heading. Text again for, I'd like to chat with you, something like that. And then the last thing is a button. I'm just gonna put say hello. Yeah, that's pretty much the site. Like if we were to make this in HTML, this is like basically HTML. Like it's just the content. So this is what we should have so far. And actually, let's go back up here because I forgot the nav bar. So yeah, text tool again, your name up here. And then on the other side, what is it? About projects and then contact. I believe there's a view resume here too. So let me add that view resume. Okay, this is getting crowded. So I'm actually going to decrease the text size here. So if you want to decrease the text size of multiple items, just like drag and select all of them. And then you can choose a new text size here and it'll apply to every element. So yeah, this is what your site should look like right now. Are there any questions? Okay, so I want to change the text size of all of these. So like if you just go out here and then you just randomly click on the screen, you get this box. So anything inside the box will be selected. So I'll just like drag it until all of these are within the bounding box. And then now all of them are selected. If I go to the right side in the text properties, I can change their font and it'll apply to everything. Yes. Yeah, I'll just pause here. Maybe some people need to catch up. Are there any other questions? So yeah, we've just used all of the tools like we've learned before in the basics section. Just a text tool, a little bit of the properties panel, and then the rectangle tool.
How did you get like the perfect spacing in each
I actually just dragged them together, or like drag them, rearrange them. So the question was, how did I get this perfect spacing? I just like put them together, but it's not actually perfect. If you want them to be aligned, uh, like vertically aligned, so I'm just gonna move them down here so they're like skewed. So what you can do is, again, select all of it and then scroll all the way up here. And now you have these tools. So this means align all of the elements to the left side, like to the, whoever is the leftmost, put everyone else there. So horizontal means like, I believe that is move everyone to the middle of like relative to everyone. Like if this is all of the elements, the middle would be like right here. So now they're all there. Wait, let me go back. So the middle is here. And if I click this, it'll go there because that is the average like center between all of them. Yeah, so this one is like the leftmost, like wherever the leftmost is, like move everyone there. And then this one is whoever's on the rightmost, move everyone else there as well. So that's for horizontal alignment. But now for vertical alignment, it's these ones over here. So this means, okay, whoever's at the top, like move everyone else up there. So that's what that. And then this one is whatever their average vertical like middle is, move them all there. I'm gonna do that again. So this is the bounding box of all of them. And the middle is here. So now all of them are gonna go there as well. That's what that is. And then this is like whoever's at the bottom is down there. But if I put about up here and then I do it again, and then I get them to align vertically in the center, the spacing between them is not the same. So for that, you go to these ones, the 3 lines over here. So I'm gonna say distribute horizontal spacing. So that means, okay, now everyone's like gonna be the same distance away from each other. And then you might be like, okay, but they're like all the same distance away from each other, but I want them to be, I want that distance to be smaller. So this is this number here. So that's saying the distance between all the elements is 148. So I'm going to say, okay, I want them closer together, which is what you have in a nav bar. They're probably super close together. So I'm going to put 32. So I'm saying, okay, I want all the distance between all of them, like in between them, to be 32 pixels. Any questions? Okay, if there's no questions, then we'll move on. So yeah, we talked about, now we have our layout, our content, and the next is adding personality. So I want to go to this website first, Zen Garden. I'm sure you've seen this before, but it's basically like a bunch of people got the exact same content and they just like made it look different due to like fonts and colors. So if we go to this one, the beauty of CSS design, a demonstration of what can be accomplished. But then if we go back, this is the exact same content, but it's just like, it looks different because of the styles. And again here, yeah, CSS Zen Garden, a demonstration of what can be accomplished. So like, it's like the same content, but it just looks different. So that's what we mean about adding personality. So yeah, now we're gonna add fonts and colors, and this is where like, this is where you can put your own personality into like this design because it's your portfolio. So I'm gonna like base it off this though. So before we get into that, let's examine the project here, like the final outcome. Like, as you notice, there's like only like one color and it's blue. And then the rest are like shades of black. That's because most UI designs, or like most, if you like look at all the apps you use, they're all one primary color and then all of it's like black and white. And so for our website here, I'm going to pick one primary color that I'm going to use. So the primary color is used to like exaggerate stuff. Like, look at this Figma UI. There's all of it is like the user interface is pretty much like grays and blacks, but there's like one color that stands out and it's blue. Because that's what Figma wants you to do. They want you to share. See blue here, though that's like the exaggerated action. So that's the primary color purpose. For this website, for Sebastian here, we're gonna choose like this blue color that over here that we used. And so what I like to do is I like to keep like my colors that I've chosen up here. So I'm gonna make a square like right here. I'm gonna make like a square. And then I'm gonna change that fill to that blue color that I like. I think this is what it was, but yeah, it's like a way to keep track of the colors that you're gonna use. So I like this blue color here. And then I'm gonna apply that to, I know the name here. So you can use this eyedropper and just like get anything on the screen, which is why I like to have that square up there. Yeah, so if you can choose like your own color or you can choose the blue we have, that's fine. But yeah, you should have a square up here now with a color of your choice. Hopefully, it's ideal that it stands out from the white background because accessibility, like it should have a contrast between the background. So this blue is good because you can clearly see it on top of this white background. Yeah, so now that I've added the color here, I'm gonna actually change the text sizes. So if we view like a website, the paragraph is like mostly 16 pixels. Because in Chrome, the browser, the default size is 16 pixels for your text size. So we want to like go around that range, unless it's like a title like this. So I'm gonna change all of these up here to be 16 pixels. So again, select all of them and then go to the right-hand panel here and then type 16. And then, okay, now they're not aligned like vertically, they are not aligned correctly. So I'm just gonna hit this button here, align vertical centers. So now they're like aligned vertically in the same like vertical axis. No. Yeah, no. So that's our nav bar done. So you should have something like this, where all of them are 16 pixels and they're all aligned the same. So that's it. That's our nav bar. Does anyone have any questions about that? Questions? Okay. So now we're gonna move on to the hero. So right away, I want this one to stand out because this is like our title, your name. So I'm gonna increase that to, I don't know, like 72 or something. Or that is not that big. I'm gonna go with 96 up here. And then this is like, your description. So I'm gonna like decrease that maybe like 48. And then on a website, you want like a hierarchy of your typography. So having everything bold is like kind of too much. Like we need some indication that this is not as important as this. So we're gonna decrease this to like a regular. So now it's a lot thinner. So now there's like a nice hierarchy of, hey, this is the title, which is my name, and it's like a description. And you can tell that there's a hierarchy because this is bigger and bolded, and this is smaller and has like a thinner font weight. So yeah, to change that again here. Okay. So now we have these buttons here, and typically a button also has like 16 pixels. So let's change that. So yeah, select everything again, change the font here, and then align vertical centers. So now they're like aligned vertically. And then, okay, the space in between here is less than here. So to fix that, these three, and then distribute horizontal spacing. So now they're all equally apart, which means I have this option here to change this to like something smaller, maybe like 32. So now they're all like aligned properly. They have a good amount of distance from each other. They're all the same size font, and I can move that up here as like your links. So this should be like your hero should look like this now, which looks a lot better now that we've changed up the font size, the font weight, and alignment. So we're gonna do the exact same thing to everything down here. So, okay. What's the hierarchy here? So this is the title, description. This is also a title, and this is like little tags. So I'm gonna move this over here. So it's aligned with this over here. So I'm gonna move it here until it snaps. And then 64 is kind of like too big. So I'm gonna like change it to like 32 over here. Or maybe 30, 36. So now we have that here. And then, okay, but now this is bigger, even though in our hierarchy, this is a heading and this is our paragraph text. So it should be a lot smaller. Paragraph text in a website typically is 16 pixels because that's the default. So we'll change that, 16 pixels. And then typically paragraph text is not bolded, so I will change that again to regular. So yeah, now again, like if we look at this, it's clear, like this is the title. This is like a description. These are links, or like it's not obvious that they're links, but it's like the hierarchy is that these are not headings or anything. And then again here, this is like an H2, a heading 2, and this is a paragraph. So it's like really obvious. So if like the viewer is skimming through this, they're gonna be like, okay, this is the first section up here, and then this is the about section down here. So my skills and about probably have the same role. Like this is also a heading 2, this is a heading 2. So like if you're looking at a website, headings that are the same role, they have the same font size. So let's change that so they have the same. So it's about 40 pixels here. And then HTML, CSS, JavaScript, those are gonna look like this later. So they're like little pills. So they're also about like not as important. They're like they have a paragraph rule, and paragraphs are 16 pixels here. So once again, I'm gonna select all of it, and then 16 pixels here. And then click this vertical align, and then I'm going to distribute the horizontal spacing evenly so that they're all the same distance from each other. And then I'm going to decrease that distance here. So yeah, from like what we started with, like it's clear now, like this is nav, this is a title, this is like a heading over here, and these are like information about this heading. For our placeholder image, I'm just going to move it up here and then make it smaller. We will add an image to that later. I'm going to pause here, see if anyone has any questions or needs to catch up. But yeah, already like we've just changed the font sizes and stuff, and it already looks like much better. It's clear where everything is. And yeah, like all of these like elements here are like consistent with each other. Like this is 16 pixels, 16 pixels, 40 pixels, 40 pixels. So it's easy for the brain to know that these are like headings and paragraphs and stuff. Okay. So next up we have the projects. I'm just gonna move this all up here because it's down there. So I'm gonna once again select everything and then move it up. Okay. So if we look at this, projects is a heading as well. So it's like a section heading, and about is a section heading, and they should be the same. So I know about is 40 pixels and projects should also be 40 pixels. For title, it's more like if projects was a heading 2, this would be more like a heading 3, because it's like a sub topic under sections. So it should be smaller than that, smaller than 40 pixels. So I'll give that like 24 or maybe 32 pixels. There's actually a more scientific way to figure out what your font sizes should be. But for now, we'll just do this. Yeah, description, once again, that's like a paragraph text. So that's 16 pixels. And it should not be bolded. It should be like a regular width. And then view project, view site, these are buttons. And if you remember, the hero has buttons too, and they're also 16 pixels. So we should match that. So now your project section should look like this. And then lastly, we'll move on to the contact section. Again, this is like a heading 2, and heading 2s have 40 pixel font size. So we'll change that here, 40 pixels. And then this is like a paragraph text again. Paragraph texts are 16 pixels with a regular font weight. And then buttons, again, 16 pixels underneath here. So yeah, if we zoom out here, this is basically this site. it's the exact same content here. And it's the exact same layout, but without all the fancy colors and images and stuff. So we're like almost there. Let's actually decrease the size of this frame now because it's way too long. So once again, click the name of the frame, or you can find it here on the left-hand side. And then just drag it up. Yeah, so this is pretty much this is like a wireframe what we just made. So we laid out the content without any color or any content or any like image and stuff like that. And we have the general structure to see what it looks like. And it looks pretty good. So now the next step, now that we've changed the font sizes and the font colors, is to change it to the font that you want. So whatever font you were using, now you can change it to something that more reflects you. So I'm going to look here, and it looks like our example is using this font called Manrope. You may not have that, so I'm actually just going to change everything here to be, I don't know, maybe, I think everyone has the Arial font. So I'm going to do that. A fast way to change the text on a frame is select your frame and then press enter. So now everything is selected. And then if you look on the right side here, now you have your text properties because you selected a bunch of text. And then you can change all of these collectively just by changing it here. So I'm going to change it to Arial because I'm sure everyone has that one. Yeah, so when you're designing your site, really think about like, who you are, what you like, because some people like, I don't know, they like serif fonts. Like, let me just change this real quick. So it's a serif font and it's like a whole new vibe. Okay, that's not the example. Let me do this one. Yeah, so I have this serif font here, and it's like a whole different vibe because now it looks, I don't know, it looks much fancier because it's like this kind of font. But it's much more modern if we have a font like this. So yeah, really think about what kind of vibe you have, and then choose the font that most resonates with you. But for now, we'll stick with Arial here. So the next thing we'll do is adding the colors. So we already have a color here. But if you click like your text and then you click here in fill style, we have some preset colors here already. This is the colors we used in the goal site over here. So you can actually save them. So you can easily access them here. And I'm not going to get you guys to do this, but I'm just going to demonstrate how I got these colors. So say I had a color here, and let's say my choice of primary color is this Soci blue here, or Soci green. So you probably want different like tints and shades that just in case maybe you want like a light version of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to plugins and I'm going to look up shades. So there's a plugin here called tints and shades. Yeah, you don't have to do this. I'm just demonstrating how I got those colors. But yeah, in plugins, you can look up the tints and shades and run it. So what they want you to do is select a rectangle, which I do. I have here, and then I'm going to generate colors here. So now I have a bunch of tints and shades of this color that I can use in my UI, and it's like consistent with like I don't know what kind of algorithm they use, but it's like harmonious. So that's how I got these colors. And like I mentioned before, if you look at like this Figma UI, basically everything is gray, like a light gray, a dark gray, like this is gray, like dark gray. When I hover over this, now it's a light gray. And then this border color is a light gray. So when you have a UI designer or a website, you're probably gonna want a bunch of gray colors. So I'm just gonna pick a random gray here, maybe this one. And then I'm gonna run the tints and shades plugin again. And then I'm gonna have it generate these colors for me. So now I have like a super easy color palette that I can use for my UI design. Yeah, so these shades here have like different roles. Like see, this is like the same, almost the same color as this black color here that Figma uses for their background. So this can be a background color. And then this can maybe be the border color, and this is the text color. So yeah, color plays like, there's a lot of different roles that color plays in like a UI or like a web design. That's why we have, if you look at like other websites, they probably have like these different shades and tints, because there's just so many that they need. Like this is a white color here, and then there's a gray, but then this gray is different from this gray, but then now there's the border color. So they probably use a bunch of grays here. So we'll go back here, and we actually have these styles for you already. And the way we can use that is, okay, I want this to be, I don't know, a lighter gray. Because again, hierarchy is, this is supposed to be super visible and bold and like a dark color, but I want this to be like a gray color. So if we want to use one of these preset colors, we can go here to style and then choose one of these. I don't know, maybe this one's good. So now there's like an obvious hierarchy of like, not only is this bigger and has a dark color, this has a smaller font, a thinner font weight, and it's lighter. So now it's easier on the eyes to say, okay, this is the title, this is the description, and then there's like a natural flow to the eyes with this way. Another important thing is contrast. So when you're building a website, it's good to look at your contrast between your text and the background. This is very important for accessibility, because some people have like some kind of visual impairment that maybe they can't see the difference between this white and this gray. So there's actually a tool to check for that. You don't have to do this right now, but if I go, once again, plugins, super useful. So I use this tool called Contrast, and if I run it, and if I click on this text, it's going to tell me, okay, this is good because the contrast ratio between this gray and this white is good. So people with, I don't know, like I think it's like a color blindness. If they have a colorblind impairment or something, they can still see this. For people like us, like without like an impairment, you may be like, oh, but it's super contrast right now. But sometimes this is actually not enough contrast. But according to this, it's saying, yes, we passed a AA contrast ratio, which is good. You should at least aim for AA. But this is more of a like advanced topic, but that's like just an FYI. Okay. So we're going to start with the nav bar here. So we have all the text sizes good, but then now view resume is a button. So I'm going to have a rectangle here, and I'm going to draw one that's about the same size here, a bit bigger. And then I'm going to put it above view resume. As you can see, it is covering view resume. If we look on the left here, it's at the very top of the layers list, but we want it at the bottom, or like just at least below view resume. And you can see view resumes right here. So we can like move this up. So now it's visible. And let's say I want my my button to be blue. So I'm gonna go into my preset styles here, and I'm gonna pick like a blue color. And then there's your button. Then maybe you want like a button that's rounded. So again, on the hand side, corner radius, we can just increase that, maybe like 24. So now we have a nice rounded button here. And maybe we want the text inside to be white, which I have a preset color here. So now we have the nav bar styled. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm gonna delete this, change this back to black. So I want my button to have like a rounded rectangle behind it. So I'm gonna get the rectangle tool, R, draw out a rectangle. Then I'm gonna move it up here. But again, yeah, since it's a new element, it's like at the very top of the layers list over here. So I'm gonna move this down. And I'm gonna adjust it so that it looks symmetrical. And then I'm gonna change the color here. You can change it to anything you want, but I'm gonna use one of the presets over here. And then maybe like I'm not feeling a super sharp button. So I'm gonna change the corner radius, which is over here. This is with me selecting the rectangle, by the way. I'm gonna change the corner radius of the rectangle, and I'm just gonna make it like 32 or something. And then change this to white. Okay, is there any other questions? Like we're pretty much done the nav bar. Like this is what we're gonna code. This is the nav bar right here. Yes.
How do you add the colors to the color palette in Figma, like the people?
Oh, right. That is a good question. Yes. So if you select any element on your screen, like let's say like this rectangle here, it doesn't have a preset, but I can turn this into a preset. By clicking here again, the 4 dots. And then there's a plus here called create style. And it's like, oh, this is my grade. So now it's part of the color palette here, my grade. This is the same for text sizes as well. So we're actually going to do this later, but say heading 2 is 40 pixels. But then earlier I had to keep changing it manually, but then I don't want to do that. And also, what if I forget it was 40 pixels? So my about here is a heading 2. I can save that. It'll save the type, the font weight, and it'll save everything here basically. So once again, 4 dots, add style, my heading 2. So now that's saved, and I can use that everywhere else to keep things consistent. Okay, so now that we have the nav bar done, let's move on to the hero here. And if we look at the example, we also have a button here, but now we have these icons. So this is, again, plugins are very useful because I'm not going to make that icon. And I'm not going to like search the internet for the icon because Figma plugin can give it to me already. So I'm going to go here to resources, And then I'm gonna look up icon. So that's resources. And then I'll look up icon. And then there's like a bunch of icons here I can use, but my favorite one is this thing called Iconify because it has a bunch of like icons built within it. So I'll run this. And now I have like a whole like search bar for any icon I want. I'm gonna look up GitHub because that's what I need. And like now I have like access to all of these icons I can use for free in my project. And I don't have to make these myself. And it's good for anything too, like if you want like a house icon. Like you can just look it up here. But I want GitHub. So if you just like click on it, you can import, but I'm just gonna drag and drop it because it usually moves it to somewhere weird. So I'm gonna drag and drop it here. Where'd it go? Okay, well, it moved it there anyways, so that's kind of annoying. I'll just move it back here. Okay, so now we have a GitHub icon, and that was like super easy. Like this is also vector. So if you like double click into it, like you can adjust it. But yeah, like I didn't have to make any of this, and it's free for me to use. So I'll just move it up here to GitHub. And then I'm gonna do the same for LinkedIn. So yeah, go to resources, icon, Iconify. And then LinkedIn right there. Like I didn't need to make it. Oh, it probably moved it somewhere weird again. Yeah, I'm gonna move it over here. And then lastly, I would like an email icon. So once again, yeah, Iconify, you can actually run the most recent plugin you used. I believe I think it's, well, on a Mac, it's Option Command P. But you can also go up to your plugins and run last plugin over here. But yeah, now I want an email icon. It keeps moving it to random places here. Okay, now it looks much better because we have icons, but we still have to turn them into like buttons like this. So we're gonna do the same thing we did over here. You can actually like duplicate this by doing Control D, or you can like hold Alt and then drag it. So yeah, I'm gonna do that again. So I wanna duplicate this. So I can do Control D, or I can hold Alt and then just drag it. And I can have like multiple of this. But I just need the one here, so. So earlier I talked about how this blue is like a primary color that is used to exaggerate an action, like share. This button here, like Figma, is telling us that they want us to share stuff. And then this blue here, it's like super obvious that these are like the main actions, but these are buttons too, but they are not blue because they're like secondary actions. So we don't want to make all of these buttons blue. So maybe we'll do like a gray here. So I have like a preset here. We can use my gray, which is what we did earlier. And then we'll drag it up here. So right now it looks like in our layers panel, the GitHub icon is above this rectangle, but the word GitHub is not. So we can actually move this layer to the very back by right clicking and then send to back, or you can use this bracket shortcut. And now I'll just adjust it here. So now we have our button. And then I'm gonna do like the exact same thing to these other ones over here. I'm gonna duplicate this rectangle, hold Alt, then move here. Hold Alt, move here. So now we have pretty much the hero done. Yeah, so actually one thing is, as you can see, this button is like, you can just like move it up, move it individually. But sometimes you don't want that because like it's a button, so it's all supposed to be like one thing. So you can actually group things together by selecting everything and then Control G. Yeah, so that's select everything and then Control G. Select everything, Control G. So now they like move together as a group, which is much easier. So we have our nav bar done. And we have our hero section done. Does anyone have any questions so far? We are almost done. Okay, so we'll move on to about. There's not really much to do here because we just have our paragraph. But over here in our example, we had like, these are like kind of links. So we'll add that as well so we can see how we can do that. So maybe we can edit our text here too. I'm from SFU, I like SSS, like so websites, and I don't know what link I can have. And this is my link. So usually like, when you're on a website, you have some paragraph text and then in the middle, there's like a blue link or something. So we can actually change the color of individual ones, like of individual characters in text here by clicking into text and then highlighting what you want to change and then just change the color. So now you have like a link within your paragraph here. Okay, now for these ones, make it look nicer, we're gonna like add a border around it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate this, or I'll just make a new one. I'll make a new rectangle. But this time I don't want a fill on it. Like I just want the border. So I'm gonna remove the fill here. Now it's like it's gone. And then I'm gonna add a stroke here. And then I'll put that around my HTML word right there. So I don't know, it just looks it looks nicer. It looks like a little tag fill. And it's easier to section it off. So again, I'll make a new rectangle. I'll remove the fill because I don't want the fill. I'm gonna add a stroke. And I'm gonna move that on top of my CSS word here. And then I don't want to make another rectangle. I just want to duplicate this. So I'm going to select this existing rectangle, hold Alt, and then move it here. I'm going to increase it here so it fills up the JavaScript. And then it looks kind of harsh right now because of the sharp edges. So I'm going to select all of these rectangles here. I'm going to select them all. And I'm going to round the corners here, maybe like 64. So now it looks, it's much easier to read that this is like separate. And then again, I'm gonna change the the border color because it's kind of too much, because it's competing, because this is a black color. So this should be like kind of like a gray color. So once again, I'm gonna select all of these rectangles, and I'm gonna change the stroke to, I don't know, something light, like this gray color. So now it looks much much easier in the eyes, because this is, you can tell it's still a border, but it's not competing. So this section is now done. We just have to add like a an image here of yourself. So I'm gonna guess that most people don't have your portrait with you. So we're gonna use a plugin to put a random person's face in there. So again, plugin up here. And I'm gonna search up Unsplash. That is not the one. Okay. So now Unsplash again, you can get copyright-free images. So I'm just gonna look up like a portrait of a person. Okay, so I'll use this person. And how Unsplash works is if you're not selecting anything and you click on an image, it just puts it there. But if you're selecting this rectangle, it'll put the image in there. So now we have this person as like placeholder profile picture. So I'm gonna do that again. So resources, Unsplash, run that. While selecting this rectangle, I'll just look for an image to put in there. And then there, it'll populate it inside. Give it a round corner here. So yeah, you should have a site like this now. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, John. Oh, you missed, okay. So these logos here are from a plugin called Iconify. So go up to this, in between the hand and text is the resources. And then you click on plugins over here, and then you search for Iconify, or like there's like tons of other icon plugins, but I really like this one. And then you run that, and then you just look up, I don't know, GitHub. Yeah, and there's like tons of different GitHub icons you can use here. You just click and drag them onto your thing. Yes.
Is it better to insert an image into a rectangle or a frame?
That is a good question. So it depends. The question was, is it better to insert an image into a rectangle or a frame? So it like depends on your use case. So this is a rectangle. And I chose rectangle because I'm not really going to put anything in it. Whereas if I wanted, I don't know, like a circle here, because maybe I wanted a circle, maybe like a sun. But then I wanted this to like cut off because I want it to be part of the image. It's better to use a frame. Like let me demonstrate that. So I have a frame here, and you can actually copy, like you can copy fills. So I selected this rectangle. I'm going to copy this image, Command C or Control C, and I'm going to paste it over here in my frame. Yeah, but then I can drag this circle inside. So now I can do like, I don't know, something fun with the frame. So it depends on your goal. I'd say if you're not sure yet, maybe a frame would be better. Because maybe you want to add special effects like this. Like this is my frame and I want like a gradient. You can do cool stuff like this, where the bottom is like dark. And then you want to have an overlay like that. Like if you did that with like a rectangle, you can't really do that. But yeah, it depends on your use case.
Can you move the image inside of the rectangle? I know in frames you can just move the image around and it would just clip off. You know,
Mhm.
clip off. Can you do the same thing with the rectangle because it's a fill?
Yeah, so let's say I wanted his face bigger. I'll click on image. And there's different modes here, like fit is like make sure the entire image fits in the frame. Tile means, I think this is like it repeats it. But then if you wanted to move it around, do crop. And you can just like make his face bigger. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. Can you reposition, resize? Oh, yes. Yes. I think that's what I just did. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to do that again. So yeah. That's the crop. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very useful. To just like be able to do this. Because maybe you want a close up of your face or something. But yeah. So we have the about section done. And like what I've been doing is like it's like pretty much the exact same process. I don't know if you know everyone like sees that I'm doing the exact same thing where, oh, okay, like yeah, this is 40 pixels, and then okay, this is like description, so 16 pixels, and then okay, now there's a button. Let me make a new rectangle for that. Give it a blue around the corners. Okay, it's on top. I'm gonna press the bracket key. It's over here. I want to bring it to the back. So this key right here, or you can just right click and send to back. Adjust it. Maybe make this white. And then there we have a button. So it's pretty much like the same process of like, you know, making a new rectangle if I want to make an element like this, changing color. Yeah. So once you get like the hang of it, like making a website should be super like easy with the same flow. So yeah, we have a button here. And the reason I made it blue is because I want the person or the viewer to click it. I'm saying this is a primary action, so I want you to do it. But the view site, it's not a primary action. So I'll just make that into, I think it was like a gray color we used. Yeah. In like UI design, it's very common to have a primary button, which is this one, and a secondary button. So it's another way of hierarchy. I'm saying, hey, primary button, I want you to do this action. This is the main action. This one is a secondary action. That's why it doesn't stand out so much. Yeah, that's very common in UI design, like primary, secondary, tertiary buttons. So yeah. Now I want to add, again, same process as here. I want to add an image of a project. I don't know if I can search up on Unsplash if they have projects. Yeah, Unsplash is more for like images, not like graphics. So I'm gonna do yeah, I'll just do a random picture of a project. Maybe I'll search a project from Unsplash. And then I'll just choose this one. Give that a radius here. So yeah, we have like most, oh no, my laptop will die. But yeah, we have most of the site done. We just have the contact page left, and then afterwards we're gonna like figure out how to get ready for coding. I'm just gonna plug in real quick here. But yeah, if you have any questions, please let us know. Okay, so the last thing we'll do is this get in touch section. As you can see, it's just like a huge rectangle. So it's pretty easy. So let's create like a, actually, this is a good chance to demonstrate why we should actually use a frame instead. So I'm gonna make a frame, not a rectangle. And I'm gonna draw it like this around the content. So now all of these inside, it's in the frame. And I can just change this frame color here. And give it like, I don't know, a border radius. So it's better to use the frame here because this is like a whole element. Because if we just used a rectangle, it would just be like, I don't know, like it would not be together. It would be a separate element. But now with a frame, they're all together. So I'm just going to change everything inside here to white. And again, this is a button. So I'm going to add a rectangle here, make it white, move it to the back, right click, and send to back, or the left bracket, and then change this to, I think it was blue or something. Yeah, blue. And then add some kind of border radius here. So now we have like pretty much the site is done. Yeah, does anyone have any questions here? We actually only have about like 30 minutes left. If you have to go, that's okay. But this is recorded, so we can watch it back. But yeah, we pretty much finished the site. Like this is pretty much the same, but different graphics. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, sure. The blue, okay, yeah. So I'm gonna do this section again. So right now, like it's in a frame. You can actually like get rid of the frame, but keep everything inside it by right clicking on group. So now they're not inside of a frame. Okay, so I'll draw a frame around it. So everything that I draw around is going to be inside this frame. And then I'm just going to change the fill here to any color. And then I'll just update the corner radius here. Yeah, and then play around with the colors. I'm just going to make this white so it matches the other text here. So yeah, this is like a good example of like using a frame because this is like it's like a component, you know, it's like you're encapsulating your data inside of this frame. So we pretty much have the site done. I have a section here where we make the mobile version, but I think I'm gonna skip that because I have other stuff here. But basically, because when you're making a site, you want a mobile version because when you're coding it, you want to see what it looks like on mobile. And what you do is you basically just like copy this over and then rearrange it so it looks good on mobile. But yeah, if we have time, we will do that afterwards. But yeah, that was like adding the whole personality to your website section. The next few slides is like we're done designing, but now we're getting ready to code. And we're doing these things to make our lives easier. So when you make like a UI design or a website, it's good to have like a design system. And a design system is basically like a bunch of variables. So like our buttons, they were all blue. So we would have like a button background variable. Our headings, they were all 32 pixels. So we would have a heading 2 variable. So it just keeps consistency across the site. And if someone else is making a page from your website, they'll know exactly what to do because you tell them, hey, here's the design system. So when they look at it, they're like, oh, I know that heading is 32 pixels. I know that buttons are blue. So it's just a way to make your life easier. It's a way to do like, dry coding, but with design. So it's like, don't repeat yourself on Figma. So an easy way to do this is you look at your design and then you're going to see, okay, this is, okay, we already made the styles for you, but this is like, if I didn't have this as a preset, I'd be like, okay, this is my primary color. And then, oh, this is like my sub text color. And then I'm going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to save this text style. This is my title. This is my large description. This is my heading 2, which I already saved there, but heading 2. This is also heading 2. So I'll just use this. Oh, that's not correct. Heading 2. And then after you do all of that, on the side here, you can see all of your variables. So these are all my colors, and these are all my variables. And so you've like made a design system, and you can translate that to code. So if we go here to this heading, I can click inspect, and there's like a bunch of CSS code here, which is very useful. Because it tells you, okay, actually, let's do a different one. So we have the CSS code here. And you're not going to want to write all of this like every time you have this kind of like element. Like if I had like a heading 2, see, this is heading 2. Like you're not going to write that for every single heading. So tomorrow you'll see like in CSS, you can write classes. And this is what you would put as the class code. So that every single heading 2 you put will look exactly like this. So you don't have to like write it twice. So that's the importance of like a design system, is like knowing exactly what each one is, and then you don't have to like think about it. You don't have to repeat yourself because you know exactly what it is. The next thing in a design system is like components. So things like buttons here and like, I don't know, these icons, they're like reusable. So I'm going to just demonstrate it here. So I made like so many of these buttons, or like, I made 2, but like if I were to make another page, I'll probably have more of these buttons. So I can turn this to component. So if I select all of this and then press this icon, by the way, components are like a more advanced topic, but like if I do this and create an icon, okay, now I have a button component. And then I can duplicate this. Now I have different instances. So I don't know, like in object-oriented programming, this is like your class and these are your instances. So watch what happens if like I change the background color. So now all of them are going to change because these are all inheriting from this button. So this is like a super useful way to like keep consistency because, okay, now I have this blue button and then I put it here because maybe I have a button here, maybe I have a button here, maybe I have a button here. And then I'm like, oh shoot, actually, I want this to be red. But now you don't have to do anything else because these other button instances will know I need to change colors. Yes, anything you added can be inspected. So if I were to code out this button, I'll just click this and then I'll inspect and I'm gonna see, okay, this is the CSS code I can use. Yeah. Everything has an inspect. You can inspect anything you put here. Yeah, so it's like super useful when you're coding. Yeah, so yeah, these are more like advanced, but in Figma, you can turn stuff like buttons into components so that you don't have to keep making them. You can also find it up here. Okay, this is my button. You can also turn things like this icon, like maybe this GitHub icon is a component. Okay, I'm gonna click this button. So now I can use this GitHub icon anywhere. So yeah, you can like turn anything into a component so you don't have to keep making it. And then you can edit the original so that it keeps consistency. So that's really important. So we have about 30 minutes here. Thanks everyone. This has been a very long day. So now it's like finally time to code. Like you made your site, your design, and now you're like, okay, I'm gonna code it now. But you want to make your lives much easier. So thinking in HTML elements. So we will look more into this tomorrow, but basically this is an HTML code right here. So this means that, okay, I have a container here. So actually I have an example right here. So these are tags. It's basically like you give your browser an HTML document, but the browser needs to know, okay, like what is this? Well, it's an H1, it's a heading one. What's this? Oh, it's a paragraph. So the browser knows how to render it. So basically everything in HTML is like this syntax. So I'm saying this is an H1. This is the text inside the H1. This is a paragraph. This is text inside the paragraph. And that's kind of similar to how, Figma works. And like if I type paragraph 1 here, and then I look in the layers, it's telling me, hey, this is a paragraph, this is the text. And then if I make a frame, and then I put the paragraph in there, let me change that color so you can see it. This is like a div, which is the thing here, container. So this is like a div, and this is like a p tag. So going back to this slide, if you look at the layers here, you can visualize like, okay, this frame is a div, this is a p tag, this is a p tag, this is a button element, and this is the content inside the button element. So if you think that way towards your Figma elements, then it's really easy to lay it out in HTML, which you'll see tomorrow. And then again, CSS, Figma is used to make UI designs and web designs. So then they made it so you can mimic CSS stuff. But basically everything in like everything you see on a web page has this structure. So let's look at this button up here, the share button. So this has a height, it has a width, and it has padding, which is this space up here around it. And then it has a margin between this element and this element. So if we go back here to our workspace, okay. So actually, let's go up here. So this is our content, and this up here is the padding. If you want to know what the distance is, you hold Alt. And then it'll show you the distance between it and the other stuff. So now I'm seeing that my button here has padding of 18 up here and then 20 and 18 here. We'll probably want to move that to so it's the same here. Okay, now they're equal. So when I'm coding in my HTML, CSS stuff, I'm gonna say, oh, it has padding of 19, padding of 18. So yeah, it's important to keep in mind of that. Okay, this is more advanced stuff, but Figma has this thing called auto layout. So let me demonstrate here. So if I use a frame here to make a button, let me get the star back here. So pretend this is our button. If I increase this content doesn't really stay in the middle, even though like typically we want that. But we can turn this into something called auto layout. So if you select this frame and then press here, now you have auto layout. And this is basically mimicking this padding and height and width thing. So this is saying, okay, I want horizontal padding of 19, but actually my button has 19 padding and it has 18 padding up here. And then maybe I want the distance between here to be 16. So now if I increase this button, it like stays in its place. And it's much easier than like you increase this and then you have to move it around. But yeah, this auto layout is really important because CSS has this thing called Flexbox, which we will get to tomorrow. But so Flexbox is a way of, it's like a layout technique in CSS. And I don't want to explain more about it because it's pretty complex without the code. But just know that auto layout is the same thing as Flexbox. See, now it has display flex and all these other things that we'll learn about tomorrow. But yeah, Figma's auto layout is Flexbox, is what I'm trying to say here.